Welcome to Report. I'm your host, Gloria Tanui. We do not live in a post-racial America, but we ask you, the viewer, over the years, what progress has been made? In tonight's program, we examine how issues of race have been covered in the news media and how that coverage has changed across the decades. We begin our journey with the murder of Emmett Till, whose death provided a catalyst for the American Civil Rights Movement. Tonight on We Report, progression or oppression.
The decomposed body of a 14-year-old Negro boy was pulled out of the Tallahatchie River today. Emmett Till, a Chicago teen, was in Mississippi to visit relatives. He apparently went to a store to buy some gum and reportedly harassed a white female store clerk. 4 days later, he disappeared. Two local men, Roy Bryant, the clerk's husband, and J.W. Millam, his half-brother, have been arrested and charged with Till's murder. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People has called Till's murder a lynching, working to arouse hatred and fear amongst Mississippians. The two white men are currently being held on first-degree murder charges and await trial next month.
Bryant and Millam were found not guilty of Emmett Till's murder, but following the acquittal, the growth of the civil rights movement became exponential. 8 years later in Washington, D.C., a seminal moment of the civil rights movement took place, the March on Washington.
More than 200,000 Americans, most of them black, but many of them white, demonstrated here in Washington, D.C. today for a full and speedy program of civil rights and equal job opportunities.
100 years after Abraham Lincoln proclaimed the slaves freed, this vast throng proclaimed in song and through the speeches of their leaders that they were still waiting for the freedom and the jobs. President Kennedy declared that the cause of 20 million Negroes had been advanced by the march.
The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said from the podium, "It is a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal."
Dr. King also said that day, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Unfortunately, he did not live to see his dream realized. Just 5 years later, he was assassinated, an event that sent a shockwave through the entire nation.
Tragedy struck Memphis yesterday as Black civil rights activist Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was fatally shot here at the Lorraine Motel by a distant gunman who then fled the scene. A hunting rifle was found on the sidewalk 1 block away. Dr. King, who preached nonviolence and racial brotherhood, was in Memphis to support a sanitation workers' strike and was on his way to dinner when a bullet struck him in the jaw and severed his spinal cord. 4,000 National Guard troops were ordered into Memphis by Governor Buford Ellington, and a curfew was imposed upon the 500,000 inhabitants of Memphis, 40% of whom are Negro. Police reports say that the tragedy was followed by incidents that included sporadic shootings, fires, bricks and bottles thrown at policemen, and looting that started in Negro districts and then spread over the city.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination was not the death of a movement, however. The civil rights movement continued to expand, and the rhetoric of race politics began to evolve. Notice the language in this 1983 report.
15 years after his assassination, he finally has a day in his honor.
A national holiday remembering Martin Luther King Jr. is now law. Jenna Hansen joins us with the latest.
Today, President Ronald Reagan signed a bill to make the third Monday in January a holiday honoring the Black civil rights leader. His widow, Coretta Scott King, was there for the bill signing along with many other dignitaries. King, who also won the Nobel Peace Prize, is now the only American besides George Washington to have a national holiday designated for his birthday. Before signing the bill, President Reagan said, "All right-thinking people, all right-thinking Americans, are joined in spirit with us this day, as the highest recognition this nation gives is bestowed upon Martin Luther King Jr." The original bill was introduced 4 days after his assassination, and over the years, petitions containing tens of millions of signatures have been submitted to Congress endorsing it. A historic day for the pivotal figure in America's struggle for Black civil rights.
I'd like to buy the world a home, furnish it with love, grow apple trees and honeybees and snow-white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real thing.
And while the country celebrates a hero, not much time passes before the nation is reminded of its deeper institutional issues with the outcome of the Rodney King case.
The military was called into Los Angeles today to quench the violence after race riots erupted across the city. This came in reaction to the not guilty verdict in the Rodney King police beating case. Jack Oringer has been in the middle of it and is back from the scene now. Jack, is it quieting down out there yet?
I'm afraid, Katie, that it's not, and authorities have no idea when the rioting will end. The city of Los Angeles is literally on fire today in the reaction to the not guilty verdict. Over 1,000 people have already been injured and 25 confirmed dead as the first race riots in decades erupt in South Central Los Angeles. The jury, made up of 10 whites, 1 Latino, and 1 Asian, acquitted the 4 white Los Angeles police officers. They were accused in the videotaped beating of black motorist Rodney King following a high-speed pursuit. Many Americans view the riots in Los Angeles as a warning about the state of race relations in the country. There has been widespread looting, assaults, arsons, and murders, and property damage tops over $1 billion. The National Guard is on the scene now, trying to help the police stem the tide of violence, but the racial assaults are continuing.
The failures and successes of previous years have culminated in the ultimate civil rights victory. The first African-American president, Barack Obama. Here is a report from that historic night.
A remarkable night and an important step forward for America. That's how many people see the election tonight of the United States' first African-American president, Barack Obama. We have extensive coverage with reaction from across the region. We start with my co-anchor Mara Smith, who's live from Chicago with the celebration. Mara, what's the feeling out there tonight?
Tanner, it is a night of sheer elation, one which most of the people here thought would never happen in this country. Democrat Barack Obama defeated Republican John McCain in the race to become the 44th president. He also became the first black president, sweeping away the last racial barrier in American politics. President Obama and his family appeared before hundreds of thousands of cheering followers here in Chicago's Grant Park. Obama won 51.7% of the popular vote. In his concession speech, John McCain said, "This is an historic election, and I recognize the special significance it has for African Americans. Let there be no reason for any American to fail to cherish their citizenship in this, the greatest nation on the earth." Most of the people here see this as a breakthrough that would have seemed unthinkable just 2 years ago. Some argue this is a sign of America becoming a post-racial country and a strikingly symbolic moment in the evolution of the nation's racial history.
Despite what seemed at the time a major breakthrough for civil rights, 6 years later the country was again thrown into racial turmoil over a grand jury's decision in Ferguson, Missouri.
The grand jury has made their decision, but the people of Ferguson, Missouri don't agree.
Protests have erupted in the streets of Ferguson tonight as the town rages over the decision. Fires have been started, cars destroyed, and businesses looted by the angry mob. The police have resorted to firing tear gas into the crowd to try to disperse the mob.
This all started after a local grand jury decided to not indict white police officer Darren Wilson, who shot and killed an unarmed African-American teen, Michael Brown. Right now, all hell is breaking loose, said one witness. The predominantly black city of Ferguson has a mostly white police department.
There are so many fires in the city that firefighters haven't been able to reach them all, sometimes being driven away by gunfire. Michael Brown's parents call what happened to their son murder, but they do not want violent protests. They just want justice for their son.
The riots quickly ended in Ferguson, but the question is still in the air. As we leave you tonight, We Report would like to ask you, the viewer, how far have we really come? I'm Gloria Tanui. Good night, and thank you for watching We Report.